Just a couple short years ago, FunSpot America turned heads when they announced a brand new, ground-up Rocky Mountain construction roller coaster coming to their smallest property in Fayetteville, Georgia. At first, the overall assumption would be a smaller roller coaster, but that proved to be a false notion. ArieForce One towers over the entire park and surrounding area. The ride is built right next to the highway and serves as a beacon for anyone driving by or visiting the park. ArieForce One has impressive stats, standing 155 feet, a first drop of 146 feet, a total of 3,400 feet of track, max speed 64 miles per hour, including a total of 4 inversions. Before we jump into the meat of this review, please do me a favor by clicking on that like button, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe for future content. Presentation. ArieForce One may be the first attraction you come in contact with as you pull into the parking lot, but once you enter the gates, you have to walk all the way to the very back of the park. The ride features an all-white structure with one rail painted red and the other blue, giving this roller coaster a very patriotic look. Thus, the perfect roller coaster to be reviewing on Independence Day. For a family fun center, the theming is actually not that bad. It's a little confusing as to what exactly the theming is. I was under the impression that this was themed to a fighter jet of sorts, thus, like ArieForce One, kind of like a pun on Air Force One. The train design and some of the props support that statement, but it also feels like they're going for a space vibe at the same time. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. It's a flying craft of sorts that's very patriotic in design. Considering that this is at a family fun center, or now I guess a full-blown amusement park, I was impressed with the amount of detail put into this attraction. A score of 8 seems more than fair for presentation. The color scheme, train design, and theming added to the station really makes this a great looking ride. Ride intensity. ArieForce One starts off with a couple small bunny hills prior to crawling up the 155-foot lift. The train moves slowly as the second train is pulling it to the station. Once it's cleared the block break, ArieForce One picks up speed and accelerates to the top of the hill. The ride takes a 146-foot near vertical drop, followed immediately by one of the signature elements of the coaster, a dive loop. This inversion is also called a Raven Trust dive, which I think sounds cooler than a dive loop, but it's still the same thing. Going into this element, riders up front might experience a pop of airtime, but the real thrill of this moment is how the coaster interacts with the support structure, as you basically dive right through the supports. At the bottom, the train takes a slight turn to the right as you pop up into a speed hill. Next, the ride launches up into a massive zero-G stall, which is claimed to be the largest in the country, I guess. I really don't know, but this is a fun moment of weightlessness and serves as a decent transition point from weightless, less intense elements to crazy fast-paced maneuvers. ArieForce One then takes a jump over the station, performing an outer bank turn to the left. This is very similar to the one found on Steel Vengeance, but I would say that this one on ArieForce One is a little less intense. The coaster performs a double up element, which is where you'll get the most sustained airtime on the whole ride. After diving down from the top of that double down, ArieForce One does what I consider is the craziest element of the whole ride. The coaster stays low to the ground, hugging the roof of the arcade building as you flip through a zero-G roll. This is a super snappy element that sets the pace for the remaining portion of the ride. The coaster takes a turn to the right, followed by a quick outer banked airtime hill, then a low to the ground turnaround. This is a moment of strong G-forces. Don't be surprised if it causes you to gray out, because I pretty much did every ride. After another quick turn to the left, the ride enters another zero-G roll, the final inversion of the roller coaster that sets you up into the crazy finale, a quad down. This moment is like a hybrid between the quad down on Lightning Rod and the crazy bunny hills at the end of Steel Vengeance. Personally, I don't think that these airtime hills are as forceful like those moments I just mentioned about Steel Vengeance or Lightning Rod, because I think the profiling is a little bit better here on ArieForce One, but they are really forceful. And the cherry on the top ending is popping back into the brake runs, which the train slams right into. You stop pretty forcefully, so if you aren't prepared, those restraints will dig into your thighs. Once I knew to prepare for this ending, it wasn't as bad, but still a little uncomfortable regardless. When I'm coming up with a score for ride intensity, I have to think of other RMCs, and I would say that this is on the same playing field like Iron Gwazi or Lightning Rod in forms of intensity. A couple days later, I did re-ride Iron Gwazi, and I can confirm that it is more intense than ArieForce One, but in a scale with what the average rider would think, this is up there with the extreme roller coasters of the world. It was interesting watching other guests of the park getting on and off this attraction. Most had no idea what they were getting into, and it seemed to be too much for them. This is a roller coaster where you have to be an active participant, like bracing for the airtime hills or leaning into the turns, because this ride will toss you around like a rag doll. With everything I just said, I think a 10 rating for ride intensity is fair. It's definitely not the most intense coaster, but for the local guests, this is probably the most intense ride in Georgia. Fun factor. When we are talking about roller coasters by Rocky Mountain Construction, we know it's going to be fun, probably lots of airtime and snappy maneuvers. ArieForce One checks all of those boxes. This is a great roller coaster. I love the pacing. The roller coaster never slows down once you crest that lift hill. The mix of inversions and airtime provide a lot of variety, including the turnaround section on the other side of the arcade building. Fun factor will earn a score of 9, and there's 2 reasons why I hold it back from a perfect 10. First thing is the crazy ending. Yes, it's great pops of airtime, but it can be quite much if you ride this roller coaster multiple times in a row. That slam into the brake run is really forceful and might be the main reason why I see some of the local guests ride this coaster once and say that they're done for the day. The second reason, which is a little petty since this is a smaller park, would be the operations. I never really timed the dispatches because I didn't think it was super relevant, but it takes about 5 minutes to dispatch a train. Operators have to scan your card or bracelet. That's if they even decide to do it. I honestly rode this coaster like 4 or 5 times and they probably scanned my bracelet. Well, I actually had the card and I think they scanned it like 2 or 3 times. And then after that, they have to load the train. Like all or most RMCs, the seatbelt has to be checked first prior to pulling down the lap bar. It's a slow process, but not a problem because I never saw a line longer than a single train wait. Originality. I hear many calling ArieForce One the greatest hits compilation of past RMCs. For the most part, this is pretty accurate statement. The giant 0G stall, the outer banked turn, quad down, double up, and 0G roll. All common staples of Rocky Mountain Construction. Where the ride really takes new inspiration is after that low to the ground 0G roll going into the turnaround section behind the arcade. Staying low to the ground, hammering on some strong positive G-forces is unlike RMC, so this moment of the ride feels original. The pacing on this thing is amongst the best of any RMC. The coaster feels so fast, over in a blink of an eye. With that said though, it has 3,400 feet of track, which is no slouch. The reality is, most roller coasters copy many of their elements from other rides, so there really is nothing super original, but when we're looking at the pacing and mix of elements, a score of 8 seems pretty reasonable. Ride smoothness. This is a roller coaster by Rocky Mountain Construction, which usually means it will be butter smooth. Being this is an all-steel roller coaster, the rule applies to ArieForce One. This is a butter smooth ride that I have 0 complaints. 10 score. Alright, the final technical score comes to 9, which is a pretty great score. I would consider ArieForce One to be amongst the top tier of RMCs. It has the pacing, it has the airtime, and it has the intensity. The fact that this incredible roller coaster is so easily accessible at a smaller amusement park like FunSpot America is unprecedented. If this ride was located 40 minutes down the road at Six Flags or another major theme park chain, it would be boasting long wait times. But since this is at a small park, you can practically ride this as many times as you would like in a given day. My personal score is going to be a 9.5. As much as I would love to ride this roller coaster multiple times in a row, that finale can be a little much on the body, so after a few rides, I was ready for a break. As to where I would rank this roller coaster amongst my credits, I really don't know. I feel confident that it's a top 20 coaster, maybe even a top 10, but the trick with RMCs is they all start to blend together. Thankfully, ArieForce One has a couple maneuvers to make it stick out from the pack. Well, that concludes my review of ArieForce One. Let me know what you think of this crazy ride at FunSpot America down in the comments. Honestly, just FunSpot America, the fact that they built this roller coaster is crazy, and I just can't wait to see what else this theme park chain has in store for us. Building a roller coaster like this at this smaller park really tells me that they're ready to make some more bold moves, changes, and I just can't wait, and I'm gonna sit back and watch the whole thing, and I can't wait to experience. So, well, until next time, this is X Scream Thrills.